He was deliberate, calm, and had an escape plan. New details this hour on the 19-year-old school shooter in Florida.
Alyssa Aldaheff was only 14 years old, 14, when a bullet from a military-style assault weapon ended her life, along with 16 other classmates and teachers.
Her mother says she knew her daughter was dead as soon as she heard about the shooting. Lori Alhadeff spoke with CNN's Gary Tuckman about her unbearable loss.
She was meant for so much more in this world. She would have given this world so much more. She was so passionate and just had the zest for life.
How does a mother cope in this situation?
Well, right now I'm fighting. I'm not fighting my daughter's dead, but I'm fighting for all these kids here, all of them. Because these are the ones that have to go back to that school, and they have to feel safe. And I have 2 other children, and they have to feel safe in their heart. Okay, but we can't let shooters just walk in that school without any security. Nothing.
Do you feel our government leaders should have done more over the years to protect your child and others?
Well, exactly. Okay, if you have people with illnesses and people already know that this kid was a problem, how do we just let him go? Let him loose? The kids were joking, saying they knew about this kid. He deserves the death penalty. He doesn't deserve to live.
What would you like the president and Congress to do right now?
They need to get these crazy guns out of these kids' hands, get them off the streets. They need to put metal detectors at every entrance to get into the schools. They need more security. Alyssa, I am so sorry this happened to you. I would have taken the bullets for you. I would have protected you. And I'm sorry I wasn't there. I love you with all my heart. And so does your dad.
And on that note, let's bring in Peter Mathews. Peter, a professor of political science at Cypress College in Southern California, joining from our LA bureau this hour. Peter, thank you for being with us. Look,
thank you,
George. The pain is raw, the passion among these families. It is real for politicians to do something, but we've seen this happen before. The question now to you, is the political will there to advance, finally, the debate on gun control in the United States?
You know, George, Sandy Hook wasn't that long ago, and the problem is not just the NRA, which is a problem with the funding of members of Congress quite liberally, but there's also the gun manufacturing industry, which is actually supporting the NRA. Over half the NRA funding comes from gun manufacturers, private corporations that want to sell their guns. And that's why they try to block, and they are very successful in blocking any kind of gun regulation, even sensible regulations. And there's a total tragedy. My heart broke when I heard that mother talk about her daughter and say she would have taken the bullet for her. And it's just unbelievable, George. What can we say? Something needs to be done, and the politicians should break free from the NRA and the gun industry and do something for America.
Okay, but the NRA aside, look, we've seen massacre after massacre. I mean, is there anything that you can foresee that might change this dynamic for lawmakers to finally take some action here?
Well, certainly more regulation on, for example, background checks, and more than that, to stop people from being able to buy guns at gun shows over the counter. This young man, he bought a gun legally at 18 years old, and even though there were signs and warnings that he was mentally deranged and disturbed. You know, on YouTube, he had posted that he was going to become a professional school shooter. Another young person saw that on YouTube and called the FBI, apparently, and then nothing was done because I don't know why, and we wonder why. So what can be done? We need to get Congress to really pass regulations, safety checks, background checks, and maybe more security at schools, you know, at this point. And we know for a fact, statistically, that the states in the United States, the states that have more gun ownership, the rates of ownership, have more deaths. The states with lower rates of gun ownership have lower deaths. It's also true of nations worldwide. So it's not rocket science to figure out what has to be done. Will there be the political will, and will the lobbying, the special interest lobbying, stop any kind of significant change as it has so far?
All right, so we heard from the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who responded to what happened. Here's a bit of what he had to say. We can talk about it in a moment.
I want to speak now directly to America's children, especially those who feel lost, alone, confused, or even scared. I want you to know that you are never alone and you never will be. You have people who care about you, who love you, and who will do anything at all to protect you.
So the sentiment there, we're there for you, but Peter, no specifics on what actual steps he would push to make changes. Your thoughts?
None at all. In fact, President Obama took a lot more practical steps, including executive orders, to rein in this gun violence. And President Trump is using just words and no action because he also, as many Republicans are beholden to the NRA and the gun industry, unfortunately. And his voting base is, of course, holding him back from taking these steps, perhaps. But he needs to do something seriously. I mean, for example, we could have gun registration, not just background checks, but very strict regulation on who can buy the guns, and then have registration to where the government can track these guns and have more security at this point till we make a transition to a more peaceful society. We have 300 million guns in America, in American homes, George, in about 1/3 of the homes. So each person in the home owns several guns. And that is completely a dangerous situation. And one more thing. When people die of suicides and homicides with gun violence in America, which is about 30,000 people in 2014, what happens is it's in a moment of passion that people get shot and killed by their own relatives or people who they know, acquaintances. It's not strangers. It's not the mass shootings which kill the most people in America. It is people who know each other and guns that are available right there in their homes.
A lot of these families that we're hearing from certainly are looking for some action to be taken.
Yes, they are.
The question, will that happen? Peter Mathews, thank you so much for your time and perspective today from Los Angeles.
Thank you, George.